Another thing is you know your audience. What price points have resonated with them? Where do they look at something go, oh, that's a lot of money versus no brainer? Our next letter is O, and that stands for organic. Next comes everything associated with profitability. Do you need sponsors? How much will you charge for tickets? Let the answers to these questions spring organically from your established goals and a place of abundant growth. Most people that I know who run ads don't start with ads. They start with organic marketing. And the pattern is similar to the step that we're doing here in this event planning. So I'm going to use it as almost an analogy. So let's talk through it. If a certain piece of your organic marketing works, you can take that and run with it and maximize it by making it into an ad and pushing it forward that way. So look for what works organically first. Let me get even more organic to go back to the growing term and take you to my garden in Tucson, Arizona, where I learned to garden, which is in the Sonoran Desert. So gardening is not exactly easy to do there. It's very hard dirt. It is a desert, so there is hardly any rain. And when we do get rain, it's a deluge and a monsoon that can wipe things out because it's so much water at once onto dry ground. So it's quite a challenge. Therefore, one of the ways that I found that I could actually find success in gardening in the middle of a desert was to watch for what organically sprung up. We had a compost pile, and the cantaloupe melons, when we would dump their seeds into the compost pile, even with the heat of the compost pile and not getting extra water, they still somehow would sprout and grow. And we actually ended up growing cantaloupe fruit off of those just volunteer sprouts that came up from our compost pile. So what did that tell me? That told me that cantaloupe was good to grow. And sure enough, cantaloupe comes from Yuma, which is an even hotter area in Arizona, and it's a huge growing capital for melons. You wouldn't think because they're so juicy, but it works. It works for some reason. Even if you can't logically tell me why something is working, so long as it's working, run with it. And that is the spirit that we want to approach this step with. When it comes to profitability, what is working for you and how can you double down on that and maximize it and multiply it by applying it to your event? Have you had sponsors on your podcast before? Well, if you have, then that's a huge benefit to you because you already have some know-how of how to get sponsors and you could get sponsors for your event. So that's an example. Another thing is you know your audience. What price points have resonated with them? Where do they look at something go, oh, that's a lot of money versus no brainer? Some industries, $97 is a no-brainer for a virtual event. VIP option. It might even feel low, and $197 is also that no-brainer. It depends on the industry. Other industries, you've got to drop down to $27, $37, $47 even starts feeling like it's pushing it in some industries for a VIP ticket to a virtual only event. It really depends. What are your people buying and what is their expectation? Start there. Does that mean you need to stay there? Absolutely not. I didn't just grow melons, wildflowers, and cactus in my garden. I figured out how to grow peppers, which is, a little bit more borderline, but spicy peppers grow in the desert. They grow where it's hot. And then into tomatoes, basil, herbs, different vegetables that typically would not grow just organically as volunteers. I was able to grow them because I learned some of the principles of growing in this desert through growing those things that are a little bit easier. I could figure out how to grow those easy things and then how to grow them better, which meant that growing the harder things became a little easier and I could keep growing from there. Similarly with you, what is working? Let that lay the foundation and groundwork for the decisions that you make moving forward. So those are a couple of the questions associated with profitability. You can also work backwards. We talked about setting a goal. If your goal is $20,000 in profit, then just selling a $27 ticket and nothing else is a bit of a stretch. If you've got a massive audience and you can do that, more power to you. But more than likely, if you want to make $20,000 profitability or more, you're going to need some other strategy. And so you can start from there and see what grows, what ideas grow. Maybe do a mind map where it says $20,000 or $100,000 or whatever that number is for you in the center, and then stem off from that. What has worked in the past? Have you ever hit that number before? If not, that's okay. But what is the highest number you've ever hit before? Deconstruct that. Go backwards from that and figure out what the process was that led you there. What was the dollar amount that you sold in order to hit your first 10K month? What was the offer that you were selling? Let that inspire ideas for this event. Does that mean that you need to bring that offer back and make your event all around that offer? No, it doesn't. Absolutely not. But it can give you some numbers and some data. You can go back to the data on that launch and see what worked. When did people buy? Did they buy immediately off of the back end of a webinar? Did it take a nurture sequence? These are some of the things that you can think about when it comes to strategizing this profitability piece. Let the strategy spring organically from what is already going on in your business. That is the key, and that is why the name of this portion of your planning process is called organic. When it comes to profitability, thinking about money, thinking about marketing, sometimes we can get all up in our heads about it. And so it can be, again, really helpful to do that mind map where you can brain dump all of those thoughts that are going on in your head. Here's something that I recommend. Write down a word like marketing in the center of your page, and then have two branches out from that. One of which is things that have worked for me, and another of which is things that I've seen work for other people. And then you can branch out from there, and those can inspire you. Maybe you've seen other people market an event in a certain way that feels sleazy to you and icky. Write it down anyway, because you can color code it and say, no, this is not for me. And that can help you see where you do want to go. Maybe you do a complete 180 from that, turn around and say, okay, what is the opposite thing? Is that something that I can make viable just by being different, just by being extreme on the other side? Can I get similar attention to what this person did? Who knows? Maybe it's inspired from that because seeing that you don't like what somebody does, maybe you immediately know what you would do instead. Write that down and continue to explore it. Another prompt that you can use is things that make you feel uncomfortable. Now, this is a little different from what we were talking about before, because something that makes you feel uncomfortable can go one of two ways. Is it that gut check where you know deep in your gut that this just doesn't resonate? This isn't you. This isn't your people. This isn't how your people are going to respond. Your people are not going to respond well to this. It could be that place of ick. That's fine. Color code it accordingly. But sometimes those things that make us uncomfortable are the things that we need to push into because they are new and different and inspiring and a little scary, because if they work, that would be a big deal. And that would be a change. And maybe that's why you're feeling uncomfortable. So write it down so that you can differentiate between those two and explore them. Maybe this version is uncomfortable, but you can dial it back and start testing the waters of that uncomfortable area in another way. For example, if ads are just really overwhelming to you and you don't want to figure out how to do ads on every single platform and all across the board, well, maybe you collaborate with somebody who is an affiliate of yours and will run their own ads to their own affiliate link and bring some people to your event that way. And they're just really excited to do that, and they'll let you look over their shoulder. That can be a way to dabble in a scary area that you're really feeling drawn to, but you're uncomfortable with because it's new. So let yourself feel a little uncomfortable as you write these things down and explore them. Does this mean that you have to push into that uncomfortable feeling every single time? No. But this will give you an opportunity to, and really in a safe place. When you grab that piece of paper and you write down and explore those ideas, it's safe here because you can just set aside that piece of paper and come back to it later or never come back to it again. The key here is that you're getting it out of your head so that you can stop letting it tie your stomach into knots, making these decisions. It always comes back to the goals ultimately. When you have an idea that maybe makes you uncomfortable, or you're just not sure which way you could do it, you could not, you're not really feeling a strong pull one way or the other, review those goals. Which way helps you accomplish those goals best? Take that direction. So for example, let's take one of our goals, speaker. I want my speakers to make meaningful connections among each other. So if you're thinking about, oh, I could invite this speaker or maybe not, we kind of have enough speakers, but we could make a place for them. I don't really know whether I want to invite them or include them or not. Well, does it help to make that goal happen? I think the very last speaker that I booked for Elevate Your Network 2023, her nickname is literally the collab queen. And so I had this goal of wanting my speakers to make meaningful connections with each other. And so I knew, okay, I don't have to have someone cover this spot that just all of a sudden opened up. I could speak it myself. I've got another backup speaker, but I could invite the collab queen, who is clearly going to facilitate collaborations to happen at this event among my speakers. So that's an obvious yes. Yes, we're definitely going to invite her and include her, even though it's last minute, even though I just met her, even though whatever, we're going to do it because it accomplishes that goal of mine. So always go back to the goals and start organically so that your ideas can spring up and you can find a way that is going to not necessarily be easy per se or always comfortable, but it is going to be smooth and organic.